Amen. Om. Amen. Om. Amen. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So, good evening, everyone. We are gathered together to continue our reading of St. Francis of Assisi. The result of prayer. The result of prayer is life. Prayer integrates the earth and heart.
I think that's irrigates.
Does it say irrigates? I'm sorry.
Okay.
You're right.
But integrates works too. It does both of
The
them.
result of prayer. The result of prayer is life. Prayer irrigates the earth and, oh goodness, it did it again. I swear to heaven, I don't know what this thing does.
Heart.
Somebody else go ahead while I'm finding my place again.
Stop.
Well, the result of prayer is life. Prayer irrigates the earth and heart.
I swear I don't understand how this thing goes so far back just in an instant.
Let me look at it next time I'm over there. I may be able to do something that keeps it from doing that.
Well, I've completely lost my place, so somebody else is going to have to read this evening. So I like the word irrigates rather than integrates.
I like that. I think it's interesting that the first sentence, the result of prayer is life.
Yes.
That's very interesting, which says life is the result of prayer.
Yes.
And prayer irrigates the earth and heart. And I love earth and heart because earth is the earth, the material, and heart is this part of us that's part of the earth, but beyond it, but integrated with it. The earth without the heart wouldn't be the life that results from prayer, I don't think.
Well, I tell you what, I honestly don't know what's happened.
Can you search to find your place again?
I don't know how.
Up at the top, there's like a dark gray bar, and on the right, there's a search field.
Okay, let's not take up the time with people's time with it. I'll do my best. Anybody else have anything to say about this prayer?
Yes, I do. Prayer irrigates. I think of like irrigation, water, okay? Prayer, waters, it nourishes, it allows to flourish, you know. So that's what I hear when I read that.
Yeah, good.
And I like how earth and heart are kind of integrated together there too. Prayer irrigates the earth and heart. So. A lot of these poems are short, but there's, a good bit in them.
Yes. Thank you, Cindy. I managed to find it. So I'm back. Prayer irrigates the earth and heart. Anything else that anyone has to say about this short poem?
The result of prayer is life. Life is God, right, Brother Shankara? The universe is divine. And I read somewhere prayer is wireless connection with God. I don't know who said it. I read it somewhere long back. I keep that all the time on my bulletin board.
What is the quote again?
It's prayer is a wireless connection with God.
Lovely. Wireless connection, yes.
So
Well, we're much more familiar with wireless connections now than we used to be.
exactly.
This next poem is rather startling. Swayam, would you like to read the next poem, the In a Vision? Apparently she's got herself turned off.
She's still trying to connect to the internet, Brother Shankar. I see the little dots.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, who else feels like they'd like to read this poem?
Okay. I can read it if you want me to.
Please, Haima, please remember to read slowly.
Slowly? Okay, sure. In a vision, I asked for the most intimate experience with the Christ.
Christ.
No one would believe what happened in a vision more true than this world. The sacred chord pulsated light throughout the universe as I nursed my own Lord at my breast. In a vision, I asked for the most intimate experience with the Christ. No one would believe what happened in a vision more true than this world. The sacred chord pulsated light throughout the universe as I nursed my own Lord at my breast.
The sacred chord, by the way, is Amen. That's
Mm.
so Amen was sounding and pulsating light throughout the universe.
Mhm.
Anyone have anything to say about this remarkable poem?
Yes.
It reminds me of what it comes forward from Sri Ramakrishna about the devotee, or the about the relationship between the devotee and the divine being. You know how he says you can be the mother with her child, or the child with her mother. And I think it's interesting that St. Francis of Assisi has the mother-child relationship there.
Yes. It really speaks to that, that the word in Sanskrit is bhava, that attitude
Yeah.
of mother with child. And in that vision, in those moments, obviously, he totally identified with the maternal, and therefore Mary. And it speaks to the genderlessness of the soul, which then can take whatever form the devotee holds in their being. It's interesting too that his words in the middle of this poem, a vision more true than this world. These are almost exactly the same words used by St. John of the Cross to describe a vision that he had of the Christ. So something more true, more real than this earthly existence.
And that first line, he says, I asked for the most intimate experience with the Christ. So he's asking for this intimate experience, and it sounds to me like it happened in his vision. He asked for it, and it happened.
Yes, the intimate experience was granted, and it was the experience of being the mother to the Christ. That was the most intimate experience. How beautiful.
Brother Shankar, what do you mean by the mother to the Christ?
Well, Mary was mother to the Christ,
Okay.
but Mary is the motherhood of God. When the Christians say, praise God from whom all blessings flow, praise him all creatures here below, praise him above ye heavenly host, praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost is the divine feminine within the Judaic mystic tradition. The name is Shekinah, and she appeared as Mary to be the mother of Christ, which is why she's still prayed to in the Catholic Church. Holy Mary, Mother of God, you know, the prayer that's said on the beads. So that is, these are the three principles. These are the Trinity. The Father, And these are eternal principles that continue to appear in our manifest universe as incarnations or people. It's said in the tradition of India that all women are aspects of the Divine Mother.
Okay. Divine
So,
motherhood.
so this divine motherhood is not much, that intimate experience of that is not much given to men. But as it says here, I asked for the most intimate experience with the Christ, which is the one that Mary had with the Christ child. So does that answer it, Katrina?
Yes. Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is one of the recognized relationships with the divine being. There's the serene relationship in which you and the divine being simply coexist, and there's no real sense of relationship. Then there's the master-servant relationship, which is the one that, of course, the direct disciples of an incarnation usually manifest that relationship. Then there's the child of the divine being, Sri Krishna, and his relationship with his earthly mother. This is an example of that. And then there's the parenthood of God, mother or father to God, which is exemplified in this poem. And then there's the lover, the divine lover. And we find that in some of these poems as well, both by men and women. So some of the poems that we'll read as we go along through love poems from God will exemplify that lover relationship. As a matter of fact, all Catholic nuns are said to be married to Christ. They actually, in some orders, they actually wear a wedding ring. Some Catholic nuns.
Okay, thank you.
Bride of Christ. Did any of you share a kind of a stunned feeling when this poem was first read? No, that I had that feeling. It kind of stunned me.
I felt the same, Brother Shankar.
And you know, he gestures to that by saying, no one would believe what happened. Well, I believed him, but it took me a minute. Took me a minute to assimilate it the first time I read this, which was quite a while back now. Anything else about this one before we go on to the next one? Okay. Cindy, would you read this? Dear God, you seem to be muted, dear.
There I am.
There
Sorry.
you are.
Whoops. Dear God, dear God, please reveal to us your sublime beauty that is everywhere, 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 so that we will never again feel frightened. My divine love, my love, let us touch your face. Dear God, dear God, please reveal to us your sublime beauty that is everywhere, 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 so that we will never again feel frightened. My divine love, my love, let us touch your face.
Is the word please missing from your what you? Oh, it says, please let us touch your face on what I'm reading.
You're absolutely right. I don't know why I skipped over that. Did I do it twice?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I have no manners.
You don't say please?
I ain't got no manners. Just like this cat back here that's sleeping on my piano. Sorry. That's let me read it again with the please in it. One time.
I'd like to hear it read again.
Okay, I'm sorry. I will read it with the please this time. Dear God, please reveal to us your sublime beauty that is everywhere, 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 so that we will never again feel frightened. My divine love, my love, let us touch your face.
You left the please out again.
Uh-uh.
Oh, I didn't hear it. I'm
I
sorry.
really did say the please this time.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was my ear then. My ear was mannerless.
Man, I did. I said I extended the please too. I was
Ah,
pleadingly please, please.
well, I must have been napping.
Yeah, happens.
So, can someone who feels this poem tell me why, if we experience God's sublime beauty that is everywhere, 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 why, if we have that experience, will we never again feel frightened?
To me, Brother Shankara, it's once we find God within ourselves, He's everywhere, outer and inner, our inner self. So then we know we are in peace. We are not going to be frightened. When we see the conscience, once we realize our conscience, when we're in touch with the conscience, our fear, our ego, all those disappear. I think that's the meaning I'm grasping into this.
Well, the first lines of this are just as startling in a way
Revealed to us.
as the last poem. By repeating the word everywhere,
It's everywhere.
3 times,
Yes.
repeats the word everywhere. Now, in some places we look with the eyes that we have now, we see things that are frightening. So what it seems to me that is being asked in the words revealed to us, your sublime beauty, the subtle, the beauty that is underneath everything, even that which seems ugly to us, even that which seems frightening. Dear God, please reveal to us your sublime beauty that is everywhere, 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 so that we will never again feel frightened. Now that is a profound prayer, because right now with these human eyes, I look and I see things that are of concern, that are frightening. So, and then he concludes, my divine love, my love, please let us touch your face. These great saints see, feel, and hear differently than we do. So we can share in his prayer. Dear God, please reveal to us your sublime beauty. And I really do strongly feel that by repeating the word everywhere 3 times, he's gesturing to us that even that which we now feel frightened by, if we truly understand the sublime beauty that is beyond our present comprehension, we will not be frightened. Cindy has a song called Love Shining Peace that says, I'm amazed year after year, flowers blooming without fear. That's a couplet in that song. And I don't think I really grasped why that line appeared in that song until I read this poem. Anything else? I've been rattling on and on here.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, Swam.
my sort of the thought that's coming to me is that fear arises because of this division of me and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow that some of the other is going to hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
And if we see the beauty of God everywhere, then the there's the others sort of come together. So even the one that I was afraid of now becomes God, and so the division seems to become less, and so in that regard, the fear is taken away.
Very, very well said. It's the same thing in different words that Haima was pointing to earlier. If you find the divine within yourself, then the otherness goes away. Devoutly to be wished, devoutly to be prayed for, because this poem is a prayer. Dear God starts off the way we start a prayer. Dear God, please reveal to us your sublime beauty. I wait for the day when that happens, and There's no longer any apprehension. And of course, the saints promise us that if we persist, that will happen. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara.
Yes.
Hello. Yes, I get a sense of how, okay, looking at the Abrahamic traditions or in the Mosaic writings, God is so high up and so far away from his people, the Jewish people. You have to have a temple priest or a Moses as the mediator. And there's the Bible, the verse, I can't quote it exactly, but it talks about thou shalt not um, see the face of God and live. And then what a radical idea this is from St. Francis, to not only see the face of God, but to touch the face of God like a lover or a parent figure or a child.
Mm-hmm.
How radical that idea is. And that was
It
that
is
was
indeed. It is indeed radical. That's one of the reasons that the Church, the Catholic Church, has always had trouble with its mystics, and why it made sure that they stayed in those monasteries or convents and didn't trouble the congregations.
exactly.
Thanks for that contribution, Jim. I'm not Jim. I'm sorry, Bart. Anyone else? That was very good, Bart. You're right. The God of the Old Testament, particularly the first 5 books, the Torah.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness.
Yeah.
It softens up when you get to the Psalms, but
Mm-hmm.
but certainly the God of Moses. Of course, he was having to keep a bunch of rowdy, rebellious slaves, ex-slaves, ex-Egyptian slaves in line. And you read the first 5 books of the Bible, you see it was no easy task. Even
Right.
his own brother and sister-in-law were a handful.
Mm-hmm.
Jealous.
Yeah.
So anybody else? Anything? Well, I think we can all join St. Francis in the prayer that we somehow come to that place where we're no longer frightened. So if I'm not mistaken, that's the last of St. Francis's poem. Am I right?
You're right. We're on Rumi.
Now we're really going to get to a handful. This guy is part great mystic and part cosmic clown. One on a day when the wind is perfect, the sail just needs to open, and the world is full of. Oh, it's doing it again. It's going backwards. Full of beauty. On a day when the wind is perfect, the sail just needs to open, and the world is full of beauty. Today is such a day. Liam, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, would you like to read to us what's written about Rumi?
Absolutely. Jalal, all right, Jalaluddin Rumi, 1207 to 1273, is considered one of the greatest poets known to history. His influence throughout the Islamic world for over 700 years, and more recently in Western countries, is astounding. He is currently one of the most widely read poets in the English language. Rumi was born September 30th, 1207, in Balkh, Afghanistan, which was at the time considered the eastern edge of the Persian Empire. When he was about 8 years old, his family was forced to flee from the invasion of the Mongol armies of Genghis Khan. They settled in Konya, Turkey, where Rumi remained for the rest of his life. His father, Bahodin Walad, a scholar and a mystic, became the head sheikh of a dervish college, a divinity school. Rumi succeeded to this position upon his father's death and often would read to his students from his father's mystical diary/testament, Ma'arif. There are several accounts of the momentous event in Rumi's life. His transformation, which began in 1244 when he met Shams. Shams, a wandering dervish from Tabriz, was on a quest for the one spiritual companion to whom he could bequeath his spiritual legacy. He wove a path through vagabonds and street people, always slipping away at the slightest hint of admiration. One account of their meeting describes Rumi reading from the Ma'arif while sitting in a public square in Konya. Shams suddenly appeared from among the crowd and grabbed the diary, as well as several other sacred texts, and threw them into a nearby fountain. Rumi was aghast, fearing his precious books would be ruined. Shams then retrieved the books, showing Rumi they were perfectly dry, and then giving Rumi the choice between scholarship through text or living sacred experience. Rumi chose the latter, suddenly realizing that he had become face to face with the doorway to God. Thus began a relationship of divine union. Shams, sensing that their indefinable association was causing jealousy among Rumi students, suddenly disappeared as swiftly as he first appeared. It has been said that this was when Rumi first began expressing himself through poetry, expressing the pangs of separation from Shams, as well as the ecstatic love he had been initiated into. He also began to blissfully dance, to whirl, and is known as the founder of the whirling dervishes. Rumi sent his son to bring back Shams to him. They were reunited and had almost 4 more years together, during which time Shams lived in Rumi's home. One night in 1248, Shams disappeared, never to be seen again. He was probably murdered by one of Rumi's jealous students. Rumi was inconsolable and began wandering, searching for any trace of his friend, who was all in all to him. Finally, he realized that his beloved Shams was within him. He felt it was Shams who was writing the poetry, and even titled his collected poems The Works of Shams of Tabriz. This collection contains some 40,000 verses and his Mathnawi, which he spent the last 12 years of his life transmitting to his closest student, was another 25,000 to 30,000 verses. He died on December 17, 1273. Some say Rumi would not have gifted such an enormous literary treasure to the world without Shams, his teacher, and a sacred longing to unite with the hidden that took place when Shams disappeared. But that is exactly the role of a master, to create an intense desire for union with the beloved. And when union happens, an atomic mystical power is released that can be directed toward humanity. Rumi says to us in a poem, "Love is the cure for your pain, will keep giving birth to more pain until your eyes constantly exhale love as effortlessly as your body yields its scent." Love is the essence of Rumi. Love became his very being. Love is the impetus of all his poetry. Rumi sings fantastic promises that do not disappoint the sincere student. Stand with dignity in the magnificent current of my words, and it will carry you into God's arms.
Thank you, Liam, for such a good reading. That was a very good reading.
Thank you for asking.
Anyone have anything to say about this remarkable human being we've been introduced to?
Just there was a lot to take in from it. I didn't. Yeah, it was interesting. You know, out of actually quite a few of the, I guess, saints from this collection I have heard of before, but probably I would say out of all of them, the one who I was most familiar with, or at least the one who I knew was a poet, you know, or whose poetry I guess is most famous. Like the others, I knew of as saints, but not so much as for the writings as Rumi. But just reading this story was very eye-opening. I didn't realize. I mean, I guess it's the same thing with every time we go through all of their stories. It just adds a lot of layers to the poems as I look through them again. But I just wanted to really point out, yeah, that's something about the last paragraph of love is the cure for your pain, will keep giving birth to more pain until your eyes constantly exhale love as effortlessly as your body yields its scent. I don't know, something about that just really was just like a very whoa. Like I'm not going to try to really describe it, but it just really shook me.
Good.
Here.
Well, that's exactly what Rumi wants. He wants to shake us as this story of Shams appearing out of nowhere, throwing all the books in the fountain. Whether that story is true or not, or one of those apocryphal stories, something that Shams was or did shook Rumi right to his foundations. And as it says, Shams offered him the choice between scholarship and the experience of ecstatic divine love. And Rumi chose his teacher's way. Anybody else have anything to say about this remarkable introduction? Yes, anyone?
When I was listening without looking at the book, somehow I heard the Sham's word as Sham, and it brought to me Sham, which is Krishna, and then Rumi as Mira. So much similarity in that relationship, sort of.
It certainly was a relationship of ecstatic love, yes. Very nice. For those of you who don't know or haven't read this far ahead in the book, one of the saints in this book is Mirabai. And Mirabai was, her story is also one of those stories of these saints. She didn't care for anything at all, except the experience of divine love through the one that she knew as Krishna. The divine being takes various forms, we're told. This is one of his forms. And Mirabai was in that love, that relationship of ecstatic love with Krishna. She embodied that fifth attitude that I talked about, the serene, the servant, the child, the parent. I'm leaving one out, and the lover. So, anything else about Rumi and his? How he came to be who he was?
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
it was Rumi who said that your children come through you, they're not yours. Am I correct? That was Rumi, poet Rumi?
I don't know, dear. That's the first time I've heard that attributed to Rumi. I've heard that
yes,
said before.
yes. Yeah, I have to look into that.
I don't know if where I heard it. I think it was attributed to one of the Upanishads, but I'm not sure.
So I just Googled that, just typed that phrase in, and the most prominent result, and there's quite a few of them, are attributed to Khalil Gibran.
Uh-huh.
But that's just what quick Google search resulted for me on that.
Yeah, that must be Khalil Gibran, yes.
He's another one.
Yes, he's a great poet.
He's a great poet and mystic. So anything else about this introduction to Rumi? Well, let me just add this then, as our translator points out, as Ladinsky points out, Rumi is the best known of these saintly poets. And that's because his work is so compelling and because it's been so nicely translated and even set to music. But one of the things that I never really grasped about Rumi, though I'd read some of Rumi's work and heard it read, is his humorous side. It's almost clownish sometimes, and of course it's deliberate. It's there's nothing accidental about it. Of course it would be spontaneous as well, but for just like this first poem in this collection, where am I going? Where am I going on this glorious journey? To your house, of course. Now that's one of Rumi's poems. that short little statement. So Ladinsky, of course, starts with it so that we hear him knocking on our door. Where am I going on this glorious journey? To your house, of course. And of course, he's addressing the divine person in each one of us, the beloved in each one of us. Anything else about that before we go on to the next one? Okay, Heidi, can we ask you to read the poem with passion?
Surely. With passion pray, with passion work, with passion make love, with passion eat and drink and dance and play. Why look like a dead fish in this ocean of God? With passion pray, with passion work, with passion make love, with passion eat and drink and dance and play. Why look like a dead fish in this ocean of God? This is humor again in the
Yes.
dead fish.
Yep. Why look like a dead fish? Why look like a dead fish in this ocean of
Immediately brought to mind for me Zorba.
God? What about Zorba?
Doing everything with passion. I mean, you could
Yes.
never accuse him of being a dead fish.
Anything but.
Yeah.
Any of you who haven't seen that magnificent film, Zorba the Greek, it can only be recommended in exactly the spirit that Cindy was talking about. It's a magnificent film. Who's the star in that film, Cindy? Anthony what?
Anthony Quinn.
Anthony Quinn, thank you.
Looks like it's on Amazon Prime and Netflix.
Anyone who hasn't seen it, I highly recommend it. And Zorba, like Rumi, is also a dancer and believes in dance as a way of connecting with the divine. I learned something recently that just charmed my socks off. The man who wrote the book Zorba the Greek, I think it was just called Zorba, his name was Nikos Kazantzakis. And the man who brought the teachings that I follow and that those of us in the American Vedanta group follow, his name was Swami Vivekananda. He came here in the early 1890s and stayed here for most of the rest of his life teaching. He said, I have a mission to the West, as Buddha had a mission to the East. One of his dearest friends was a woman named Josephine MacLeod. Now, Josephine MacLeod lived much longer than Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda left the world in 1902. Josephine MacLeod lived on and spent most of her time in Europe, actually, where she became a very close friend of this man, Nikos Kazantzakis, that wrote Zorba. So anyway, that's just a completely ad hominem aside, but it just goes to show there's these wonderful connections. Anybody else have anything to say about being a dead fish in the ocean of God?
I can see how we can be dead fish if we don't have passion in what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that true, Brother Shankara? If you pray without a passion, you're almost like forced to play. It's like a lifeless pray. So I see the meaning behind what he's saying.
Yes.
It's truly, you have to have passion. You have to be passionate in doing anything, even a little thing. Thank you. That's all.
Well, thank you, Haima. You're certainly, that's what Rumi seems to be telling us. Heidi, how did this poem strike you as you read it?
Well, it was the first time that I read it, and again, I just cracked up with why I look like a dead fish in the ocean of God. You know, that just cracks me up. But yeah, when I was reading it, I think, you know, he's saying if we're lucky enough to be here in this body, you know, and
What a sweet way to put it, that we're
yeah,
lucky enough to be here in these bodies.
and you know, take purpose or passion in what you do. Like Haima said, from ordinary things to, you know, to work or to making love, or, you know, the whole gamut. Whatever you do, just, I guess, do it the best that you can. And, you know, evoke the divine, God's love and passion, and, you know, put that into your work.
Right.
So.
Well, this, you know, we can hear an echo of St. Francis's God's sublime beauty everywhere, 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 in Rumi talking about the ocean of God. The ocean pervades the world. And this is in fact a water planet, far more water than there is land. And so it's not an easy lesson to learn, though, because when we let ourselves go, there's a risk. And so that's why this provocative question, finishing the poem with this provocative question: why look like a dead fish in the ocean of God? I mean, there's very few things that are just as outwardly unpleasant looking as a dead fish. Once they're cooked, well, that's different. But if you've ever come across a dead fish in the water, particularly one that's been dead a while, this becomes a very potent image for you.
Yes, I grew up on a lake, and so, of course, you would see the dead fish wash up on shore, and the only ones that had an interest in those were our dogs, you know.
Yep, they would actually roll in them, which
and then they would stink, and then you'd have to give them a bath in the lake.
Right.
I mean, it was like, oh, it was bad, yeah.
I was told by someone who knows a lot about dogs that they do it to disguise their scent.
Is that right? Okay, I didn't know that.
That's what I was told. Anything else about this provocative poem by Rumi? One of the things that I've noticed as I've gone through this book a number of times is that there is a through line, a very conscious connection in what Ladinsky assembles for each poet. So first he says, he lets Rumi say, I'm coming to your house. And then he leads off with this provocative poem. Be passionate. Be passionate in everything you do. I look like a dead fish in the ocean of God. Mm-hmm. And then the next one. I like when the music happens like this. Something in his eye grabs a hold of a tambourine in me. Then I turn and lift a violin in someone else. And they turn, and this turning continues. It has reached you now. So we're still having this very direct, Rumi talking right to us. I've come to your house. Why like a dead fish? Why be like a dead fish? Isn't that something? I like when the music happens like this. Something in his eye grabs hold of a tambourine in me. Then I turn and lift a violin in someone else. And they turn, and this turning continues. It has reached you now. Isn't that something? Has it reached anybody? And of course, he starts off by saying, he grabs a tambourine in me. What is a more exuberant musical expression than a tambourine? Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. Bob Dylan tune. Anybody else got anything to say about this poem? Well, it's a little after 9 o'clock. We can start with it again next week if you like, or we can go on to the next one. I just love that line. Something in his eye grabs a hold of a tambourine in me. Grabs hold. Something in his eye grabs hold of a tambourine in me.
And then I turn and lift the violin in someone else. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just so cool.
Yep, it is.
Like the turning and the passing on
Well,
and
that's, right.
handing off, kind of like.
And, that whirling dervish, he became the founder, it's said,
Right.
of the whirling dervishes. I've known some dervishes in my time.
Have you?
And yeah, they're remarkable people. I know a man here in Atlanta, his name is Kemal Korosu. He's a Turk. And he's a Sufi Turk. And the master that he studies with, they practice the twirling. And well, it doesn't matter what.
But but yes, his musicality and the dancing and all that definitely comes through in this poem.
Yes. And the speaking directly to us. That's what I mean. You know, sometimes he just comes across as a cosmic clown. Well, we'll close with this prayer.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I just wanted to say that when we look up like a magnified close-up of a picture of an eye, it kind of looks like a tambourine. The shape,
Is it so?
yeah, and then the periphery, there are these little dots of the, the iris, I suppose.
Hmm.
So it kind of looks like a tambourine.
Oh, that's beautiful. I never knew that. I'll have to think about that. That's a lovely image. Okay. This is a very traditional prayer from India. Om Hari Om, Om Asato Ma Satkamaya. Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amrutangamaya. Abir Moiti. O dearly beloved, lead us from thy lesser truth to thy highest truth. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through. Light us through and through with thy everlasting shining presence. So good night to you all. Until next time, may you go in Mother's loving and protective embrace. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. So good night, everyone.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Yes, good. Thank you very much, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.